Thank you for joining us for day 2 of our TechX conference, The No Borders, Finding Your Technical Home in IEEE. I'm Nancy Ostin. I'm the director of IEEE Eta Kappa Nu, the Honor Society of IEEE, and I'm really delighted that you joined us and for this exciting conference, as well as to get all the wonderful information we have for you to share with you today. I'm really delighted about the Eta Kappa Nu partnership with IEEE Technical Activities. Technical Activities is a really important part of what IEEE does. There are, I think it's 34 now, 36 technical societies, councils, and other groups that explore all the technical areas of interest that you might have as a professional. I promise you, there's a group that's working on the things that you're interested on, and probably multiple groups. So the technical activities is really where you can find a technical home. I think it's so important for students and professionals not just be a member of IEEE, but to join a technical society of their interest. This is where you're going to network and learn from other experts. You're going to build a network that's going to be really important for you in the work you do, either as a student or a researcher or in business. And this is where you're going to find the colleagues and the people that you need throughout your life and career. I love that Fred Schindler said yes and is joining us today. Fred is the VP of Technical Activities. And I saw Fred do this talk at a workshop we did in Jamaica earlier this year. And I said to Fred, this is the best talk about IEEE technical activities that I've ever seen. So kudos to Fred and thank you for joining us. But Fred is the VP of Technical Activities. Himself has a great technical background he'll share with you. But his experience of knowing the technical societies and working with all the technical groups of IEEE is going to be invaluable. So thank you. And let me bring up Fred Schindler, who's really the main event here, and talk about our wonderful IEEE technical societies.
Hi, Nancy.
Hey, Fred. Welcome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for inviting me.
It's exciting to have you with us here today. And I said, you know, this is an important step. I think that if everyone knew where the magic is, the magic happens around IEEE. I mean, the conferences are great, standards are amazing, but the technical activities, wow, that's where a lot of the exciting stuff happens, isn't it, Isn't it, Fred?
Yes, indeed. I agree with you.
So take it away.
All right. All right. I think we're all set now. Okay. So I want to give you a little bit of background about myself, and then we'll get into how I got involved into technical activities and what it really means. So I grew up always being interested in technical things and electronics. I love to play around with electronics from a young age. So it was pretty much obvious to me that I would be an engineer. Now, interestingly, I'll start by showing you a photo of my dad. On the right side, you can see that he was involved in the IEEE as well. He was actually the chair of the IEEE North Jersey section in the mid-'70s. I have a picture of a tube in the middle for two reasons. One, he designed traveling wave tubes, so microwave tubes, which really don't look like that. But you know, one of the things that I could do when I was young was fix electronics, and a lot of the legacy electronics then were still using vacuum tubes. So it was often easy just to figure out which tube was broken. Since my dad worked at RCA, he could get those tubes for me cheap or for free. I never really asked him. So I was able to fix TVs and radios and things like that, courtesy of the tubes he provided. The other interesting thing is that he did not want me to be an engineer, even though he was one himself. He didn't really enjoy his career. And in the mid-'70s, with the ending of the Apollo space program and the ending of the Vietnam War, the demand for electronics for space program and defense were way down, and so there were layoffs amongst the big defense companies, and a lot of engineers were out of work. So when I entered college in the mid 70s, it just didn't look like a great scenario. Of course, by the time I graduated, things had turned around. So it turned out to be a great choice for me. But he wanted me to be a lawyer. I was defiant. I was the rebellious one in the family. So I became what he did, but I made an enjoyable career of it. Here's just some quasi embarrassing photos of me. At a young age, I was playing around with electronics. By the time I got to high school, I built my stereo and fixed the TV that became the family's color TV. And it was when I was in engineering school that first I met my wife, but also that's when I first joined IEEE. So I've been an IEEE member since my college days, so a long time. And when I started my career, I did a few interesting projects, and then I ended up being in kind of advanced development work at Raytheon, where at the time we had a research division, and gallium arsenide integrated circuits, MIMICs, as we call them, were kind of a hotbed of activity. And so that's where I started. It turned out to be a great career path because the technology was nascent at the time, but it really evolved into something critical. So every cell phone today, every smartphone has a bunch of pieces of gallium arsenide in it. Of course, there's more silicon, and so certainly got involved with silicon as well. But I was fortunate to be attached to this great technology at the beginning, and it made for a great career. All right. So I became a member of the Microwave Theory and Technique Society at the time. It's now the Microwave Theory and Technology Society, and became a volunteer. Well, I joined it not long after I started my career, and I became active as a volunteer in the early 90s. The secretary of MTT, and I think it was 93, was president of the society in 2003. So that's really my home society, but I've come to know a lot of the other societies and their technologies. And, frankly, everything's so interdisciplinary now that you really need to take that into account. All right, so here's the organization of the IEEE. And if you look across, you can see under the board of directors, we have 6 major boards, member and geographic activities, which you may very well be familiar with. That's where your regions and sections, et cetera, are organized. And we have technical activities with our societies and technical councils. We have a publications board, educational activities board, the Standards Association, which you're probably also familiar with, and then IEEE USA. So I'm here to talk to you about the Technical Activities Board, which has all these different societies and councils. Okay, so I'm going to start by helping you see how I can find my home in MGA, membership and geographic activities, and it's not really so complicated. It's based on a map. So here's a map of the various regions in the IEEE. I live in the Boston area in Massachusetts in the U.S., so that means I am in Region 1. And if we look at Region 1, here are the various sections in Region 1. So I live in Newton, Massachusetts, right outside of Boston. And you can see that means I'm in the Boston section. So you look at a couple maps and you can quickly determine where you fit in MGA. Okay, so now let's find my home in technical activities. And let's take a look at what I've been doing more recently. So I told you I worked in gallium arsenide, and it's found a home in recent, it's found a home in all the smartphones, and it's been in cell phones for 25 years now. If you look at a recent phone, and I think this is an iPhone 14, but don't quote me on that. If you pop it open, which isn't always easy to do, there's a stack of a couple circuits boards. in the upper left hand. The biggest thing you see in there is the battery. I always want to maximize the battery. And if you look at one side of a circuit board, you can see a bunch of electronics. The things that we've marked with a yellow border are called front-end modules. And so these are the radio frequency things. They operate between about 600 megahertz and 6 gigahertz. And they basically go between all the digital circuitry and signal processing, between that and the antenna. So this is where the RF power comes from. This is where we receive things. So inside of these blocks are some gallium arsenide power amplifiers, so the technology I've been working with for my entire career. We have some switches, silicon on insulator switches. For a while, those were gallium arsenide switches, but silicon on insulator is a better technology, so that displaced it. There's a CMOS controller. There are some acoustic filters. And by acoustic filters, I mean surface acoustic waves and bulk acoustic waves. Just a great way to make a very small filter. And in fact, if you counted all the filters in a smartphone, you would find hundreds of them, but because of the complexity of the phone and all the different frequency bands we need to manage inside those phones. So that's what I've been doing. Okay, so yeah, here's a listing of all of our societies and technical councils within technical activities. And as I mentioned to you, I joined MTT many years ago, right after I started my career, and that's really remained my technical community. That's I go to those conferences. I go to the meetings of the governance body. That's really the community that I feel most comfortable with. And the technology I've been working on, operating between 600 megahertz and 6 gigahertz. Well, that fits right in the sweet spot of what MTT covers. So that makes it a logical place to be my technical home. But if you take a look at what we've been doing with these smartphones, communications standards and modulation techniques and things like that, they're critical to what I do. So I could very well be a member of the Communication Society, given what I do. I mentioned that we do these modules with lots of different components in a tiny little package. So obviously I could easily be a member of the Electronic Packaging Society. You put all these things close to each other, then you have issues with interference. So electromagnetic compatibility is key to what I do. There's a bunch of signal processing going on in these phones. You can't design a power amplifier anymore without understanding how it interacts with the signal processing system. So that's important to what I do. Power electronics. It turns out that the power supply that drives our power amplifier actually tracks the signal so that it maximizes, it minimizes the power consumption. So, when it needs to push out a watt of power, it gets 3 volts, and when it's a fraction of that, it gets a fraction of that voltage to maximize efficiency. It's all about battery life. So power electronics is important. I mentioned all the filters that we have. So there are ultrasonic filters, surface acoustic and bulk acoustic. So we have an ultrasonics and ferroelectrics society, UFFC. That's key to what I do. CMOS controller, SOI switches, solid state circuit society is the home for that. Electron device society, I was actually a member for many years because that's kind of the place where early developments of gallium arsenide were being shared. And and those developments are still important to what they do. We have this complex module that we're putting together. We certainly need to do a lot of modeling and electronic design of those modules. So the Council on Electronic Design Automation is critical to what we do. We need to measure everything that we do in the lab, make sure everything's working as we expect. Instrumentation and Measurement Society. The smartphone is the largest consumer electronic product that has ever been created. So Consumer Technology Society is kind of a home for that. These things need to be reliable. So reliability society is key. I mentioned the antenna, actually how you interact with that antenna from the module point of view, and then how that propagates from the antenna is critical to our success. So Antenna Propagation Society. The logistics of putting these together is a big challenge. So Systems Man and Cybernetics. Yeah, so social implications of our technology. The smartphone has really disrupted our lives and society. So we ought to be concerned about those implications, and we have the society that focuses on that. And of course, I've served for decades as a manager, technical manager. Making these modules is a big technical management challenge. So we have an engineering management society. And then, of course, we need to inform our customer, the people that manufacture the smartphones, how best to use our technology. We need to make presentations on how to use our technology. They need to make sure people understand. So professional communications is key to what we do. So what's the bottom line? I belong to MTT, but there's really no hard borders. There is no single mapping. It's not like MGA where you can point to a map and say where I belong. There are different communities, and you belong to the one that makes the most sense for you. And I belong to a number of these societies. It's important to recognize how interdisciplinary everything's become right now. So you can't really just work on an isolated technology all by itself. Okay, so how do you find your place in technical activities? So we've got this large array of different societies and councils. And you can tell from their names what their kind of core technologies are. But if you really want to dig a little bit deeper, the ones that you think are a good fit for you, they each have a field of interest statement. This is a link that you can follow. I'll leave it up for a little bit so you can jot it down if you want. And this gives you a pretty good idea. But think about these various societies and councils as a community that you belong to. I attached myself to MTT early on, and that's really what I have affinity for. But I could have easily joined a number of other societies at that point, and it would have served me just as well. So think about what community you're comfortable with, where your colleagues might be, and that's a great place to start. And if you're interested in what they do, by all means, dig into what the fields of interest of these different groups are. Turns out there's more to our technical activities than just the societies and councils. We've got a bunch of different strategic programs as well. So entrepreneurship, obviously, is an important topic. So we kind of support entrepreneurs and the venture capital and investor interactions to help promote what we're doing in technology. Tech ethics, obviously lots of ethical considerations in how we work as engineers and in what our technology does. You can certainly think about, AI, for example, as a big ethical challenge. We have a climate change program. There's an IEEE climate change program, so this is a subset of that. And so we're bringing together all the different parts of technical activities that are focused on climate change. And once again, if we kind of mapped climate change activities across our societies and councils, you'd find them in almost every group. Diversity, equity, inclusion is important to us, so we have a program in that. And then we coordinate with a bunch of affinity groups. These are basically housed in member and geographic activities. So that's young professionals and women in engineering. There's a student activities committee that we don't really have an ongoing coordination with. And there's also a life members group. And of course, there's HKN, where we really want to make sure that we get a link between HKN and all different societies and councils. And then we also take a look at what we think might be going on in the future. So, and I'll give you a little bit more on our future directions plans in the next slide, I believe. Then we have a bunch of platforms. So we have resource centers. Each society and council has a resource center. And so there's lots of webinars and conference materials, et cetera, in that. There's Dataport, everything, not everything, but many things now rely on really large amounts of data. And so Dataport is a platform where you can deposit large amounts of data, so it can be shared with other researchers. And we actually are just launching a journal, a data descriptors journal, which is kind of a companion to our Dataport. So in that you publish what essentially is a short paper that describes the data that you've deposited and how to use that. Okay, so future directions. So every year we try to take a look at the changing dynamics in our technical world and make sure that we've got an opportunity for that community to engage. And this is generally a combination of different societies and councils working together, coming together to focus on one of these initiatives. So you can see on the right side, these are the ones that we've got launched this year. So we have an AI coalition, and you can see on the left side, quantum's been obviously a hot topic for the last few years, and that initiative has matured and has migrated to a technical committee within the Computer Society. So, whenever there's something that we think is an important upcoming topic, we make sure that we have an initiative to support that. You'll see on the bottom the global semiconductors ad hoc. So there's the CHIPS Act in the U.S. and similar initiatives in different there's European CHIPS Act and Japanese and Korean initiatives as well. So that group is trying to support all those different initiatives to make sure that IEEE does what it can to support that technology throughout the world. All right, so let's get back to the organization of the IEEE. And I've been talking a lot about technical activities, and if you look at the bottom of the chart, you can see how technical activities and member and geographic activities actually intersect with what we call chapters. So these are technical and geographic organizations. Administratively, they belong to MGA, so they are fundamentally geographic organizations. But a lot of the support that they get, financial, technical, et cetera, comes from technical activities. So the various societies and councils will provide funding for activities, will send lecturers to give talks, et cetera. So it's really a great opportunity to at the local level help support a community. And my first thought is let's think about what local communities there are in each location, and think about what technical activities are going on in those locations. Let's make sure we have a chapter for that activity. And often it makes sense to have joint chapters. Obviously, we're so interdisciplinary now, so there's a lot of joint chapters between MTT and Antenna Propagation Society, Electron Device Society, et cetera. So we're really happy to support that kind of activity throughout the world, and it's an active area of growth and support. So I will acknowledge that we've got a complex organization here. But our goal is to have something for everyone. We have a lot of technical diversity. 47 studies and councils, our various technical communities. There's really our goal is to have something for everyone, and I think we have a community for almost everyone. We want to make sure that we're inviting to everyone that's working in technology around the world. And I'll also point out that there's a lot of E's in our name, but we're not just engineers. We support technology around the world. The tagline, "Advancing technology for the benefit of humanity," is more than a tagline. It's our mission, and so that's what we really need to pursue. With our various societies and councils and committees, we've got a lot of dedicated volunteers. We also have a lot of rich traditions. Some of our societies are turning 75 years old this year. A couple turned 75 years old last year. MTT, my home society, turned 75 in a couple of years. So obviously, with that, you build a lot of rich traditions. We got a lot of great technical content. Periodicals, all our different technical journals, conferences. We have a lot of magazines. We have a lot of lectures that we send around. We provide travel support for them to visit various communities around the world. So great technical content, and our goal is to make sure that we get it to everyone everywhere. So if you see a need, by all means, let's follow up and figure out how we can solve that problem. And then finally, if there isn't a community that suits your needs, well, we have plenty of opportunities to create one. We've got these technical communities. We have future direction initiatives, which is really a great launch pad for a new community. Or you can do within most societies and councils. We have mechanisms to create new things. And so that kind of wraps up my presentation. I've been trying to keep my eye on the Q&A, and I don't think I've done a great job. I see a lot of kind of back and forth and clarifications. If I'd seen a hot question, I would have interrupted and answered it. But if there was one, I missed it. But by all means, happy to answer questions that you might have right now. So please type one in if you have a question for us. Okay. Okay, so we've got a question on get the best impact. How many societies do you suggest is good to be a member of? So that's a really good question. I'm currently a member of 3 societies. I've been a member of other societies throughout my career. I'd say on average, folks join 2 or 3, the ones that make the most sense. But start with one. I don't see a need for you to try to spread yourself out too much. Find the one you think is the best fit for you, and join that, and then from there think about what else makes sense to join as an adjunct.
Hey, Fred, I thought I'd come back up and help you with some of the questions because I know it's hard to do all the different things.
Yeah.
We have another question about what is the best way for like HKN university chapters to get a distinguished lecturer to come and present at their chapters? Because you have this great DL program. You mentioned it really briefly, but I don't think you did justice to really, the vetted experts that are available to come and speak. And TAB pays some of that travel.
Right.
We know they're going to be good speakers, so it's not like question mark if it's a good speaker. This is a good speaker.
Yep. each society runs its distinguished lecture program itself, so it's a matter of reaching out to each of those programs. If there's also an IEEE student branch in your university, that might be a great mechanism. Let's bring the two groups together. Student branch chapters, would normally be attached to a specific society. And so that would be kind of a direct link to find a lecturer. If you don't have a student branch chapter with a society, then just a little more complicated to find the right contact points and get the lecturer invited. But certainly can support. And usually, what they try to do is arrange a tour around a specific area so that they can do a bunch of lectures when the time
Right.
a week or so. Yeah.
Right. I know I counsel the HKN chapters, not just work with their student branch or find if there's a chapter like an MTTS a chapter at their university, but also to work with their local section to help cover some of the costs and other things. But, HKN chapters, if you're out there, you are supposed to do things for other people. So bringing together lots of people in a place and working with these other groups is really within your mission. So please know that that's available to you. Because I love this program. The DLs are they're just amazing. If you look at their backgrounds, these are people that we know, like I said, are really great speakers. So within a society, and I know many of them have conferences, which is a great way. So again, one of the great things is being able to attend a conference, right? I think if you looked at that, someone said to me, oh, did you go to the IEEE conference last week? I said, well, there's 2,000 IEEE conferences a year, so probably not. So how many conferences do you go to a year, Fred? Because there are so many.
Yeah, there are a lot. I'd probably go to 3 or 4. One of the things that we can do is actually co-locate conferences. So I'd probably go to actually more because there are a couple of them are co-located with other conferences, which is simplifies things a little bit. But conferences are a great way to engage. And I understand that the first time you go to a conference, unless you're going there with some friends, it can be challenging. It's just a new community. You don't know anybody. You don't understand the activities. So just do your best to engage. The first time you go, and by the second time you'll feel more at home, and by the third time you're part of the community. I would say that's a great entry into various technical societies and councils. Committees.
And my experience has been that there are travel grants for students. So if you're a student here, sometimes there are travel grants. So if you're a student member, there's membership for a student often in the societies is practically free, if not a few dollars. Right. So I think, the entry point for a student is really easy. But what I thought was amazing is the travel grants that are available, the money that's available there.
Right. Yeah. And we have plenty of volunteer opportunities. Which for students is actually a great thing because if you sign up to be a volunteer, it's not heavy lifting. You'll be a human sign for an hour maybe, or you'll help run a session. In exchange for that, we feed you. Often attached to a student travel grant, and even better, you're teamed up with a whole bunch of students. So you find yourself with a cohort right from the beginning.
Right. And what I love at these technical conferences is that there is tons of industry there. So it's one other way that we really engage in IEEE with industry. So, if you go to a technical conference, and I've been to many, I've been to some of these conferences. I mean, the companies that are there, wow, what a great chance to interact with a bunch of, sometimes for jobs, but even for other things, for building your own network or even knowing what's available, products that are available, things that are available. I think that's really another real benefit of attending a conference.
Yep. And, you mentioned networking, and networking is really important. It's more important now than it's ever been. Build your network. Make me part of your network. I didn't.
Yeah, you can hook up with Fred on LinkedIn. Fred and I are on LinkedIn together, so you can find him on LinkedIn.
Yep. Right. I put my LinkedIn page on my title slide. I didn't point it out, but find me on LinkedIn, connect with me, and then my network is your network. And just build your network, get your friends and colleagues on your network, and it's really, really helpful. I actually have a daughter that's she works for a tech company as a recruiter, and LinkedIn isn't her only source, but it's an important one. So
Mhm.
make sure you develop a presence there and a network.
Yep. I think that's it because I think that network. So, I talk to students a lot, and the university might help you get your first job because
Right.
they're really good at placement right
Yeah.
out of your first job out of college. But I would say, I don't know, Fred, if you'd agree, the second, third, fourth job, or those jobs that are going to really advance your career, are probably going to come from people that in your network, people that refer you or know you, or because you volunteered, because you went out to a conference, because you attended some of these sessions. They know you and they know a lot about you. So you get
Yeah.
kind of recruited into new positions and new opportunities. Would you, how many times do you see that happen, Fred?
Oh, all the time. I've worked as a hiring manager for years and years, and virtually every hire that I've had, and most good hires, they came through a network. Going through a headhunter is kind of a hit or miss proposition, and it's expensive. Networking is by far the best thing.
Mhm.
Every single job that I've had, thinking about it, came through my network.
Mhm.
Um, I thought the first job that I got working at Raytheon coming out of school, I thought that was something I found on my own. And then eventually it took me a decade or so to realize this. But it was actually one of my dad's friends that made that connection and made it happen kind of behind the
Right.
scenes.
Well,
Uh,
I think that's like with volunteering with I know with Ed Capaneu, IEEE, or in a technical society. I think what happens is those volunteering opportunities do make you like a known quantity. People know you are reliable. They know you
Absolutely.
show up. They know if you take on a job, you deliver it. So I'm sure,
Absolutely.
we just say networking. So it's more than just making a connection and
Sure.
joining someone on LinkedIn. When you prove yourself
Right.
in
So
that realm.
when you volunteer for a conference, and you're effective and an enthusiastic contributor, that gets noticed, and that really and that becomes part of your network. It becomes part of your reputation,
Mhm.
and that means that the next conference they'll ask you to come again and maybe give you
Mhm.
a larger role. And before you know it, you will start to gain financial and management experience through the volunteer work that you can then leverage in your professional career.
Mhm. I think some people just think of volunteering as volunteering is a nice thing. It's a good thing to do. I mean, I like to volunteer and give back to the community, but I don't think people always appreciate the awesome soft skills, if you would, or other skills outside of your engineering prowess, your engineering skills that you get from doing these things. And I mean, you've been president of a society, so there is
Right.
a volunteer pathway, a career path within IEEE and within the technical societies. You join a technical society, you volunteer for a conference, maybe you end up joining the board. I know in
Yep.
IEEE at Academy we have that too.
Sure.
Some of our board members today were students when they were inducted, and maybe they went on to do this and that and volunteered here and there, and then all of a sudden they're in a leadership role. I think it's pretty cool to
It
be
is.
in a leadership role at IEEE. I think you can agree with that. I mean, I always say Eta Kappa friends, right? We make Eta Kappa friends, but I've never seen a bigger group of more, a course, really comprehensive group of really involved, engaged people within IEEE. It's a wonderful group of people. If you're not leveraging that, boy, you're missing out some of the best stuff we have to offer.
Right. And I just noticed a question from Abhishek Kumar asking about doing
Right.
freelance work, and there really is no direct way for a society where societies help people find freelance work. But the way you find it is through becoming involved in the community, so people get to know you. I've been working as a consultant for the past 5 or 6 years,
Mhm.
and it's that same network that gets me those opportunities. It's people that know me and know what I can do that will reach out to me and ask if I can
Mhm.
help on a
Mhm.
project.
Mhm.
So IEEE, it has a consultants network, and that might be helpful. The
Mhm.
societies don't actually do anything like that, but build your network, and that's a
Mhm.
way for the work to flow to you.
Well, Whithold Kisner, who's at a company member, he's in Canada, and he was a former EAVP, just commented, IEEE and HKN are more valuable than gold. And I appreciate that comment, Whithold, because I think you really don't know the kind of, the power that you hold in your hands when you decide to do that. I think, those networks, and we talk about neural networks, we talk about computer networks, there are all kinds of other networks, but these people networks, I think the other great thing is if you're an engineer and you're trying to solve a problem, you may be able to find that expertise within your company or colleague. But boy, in your IEEE network, isn't it great to be able to call somebody else up and say, hey, I got a question. You're the expert in fill in the blank here.
Right.
Is that worked for you too?
Sure.
You've been able to call on your colleagues?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, things have come my way because of my network, and I've reached out to lots of people I'm on in my network. I have an extensive network, especially certainly across the IEEE, but also in the Boston area and in the RF microwave community. And I've helped people find jobs. I was a hiring manager and I wasn't hiring, and I knew this person was good and looking for a job. I knew somebody else was looking for a good employee. So I made that connection.
Isn't that the ultimate networking, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what networking is all about.
Right. I think sometimes we misunderstand that term, right? And again,
right.
The power of it. So that's really exciting. So, a mentorship through a society. Yeah, that mentorship is really important.
Yeah. Yeah, and different societies have different kind of mentoring opportunities. MTT, I don't think we've got any kind of a formal mentoring program, but there was a Life Members conference a couple of days ago in Austin that I attended, and there was a whole afternoon session on how we better link our experienced members and younger ones. And there's another thing that we try to do even with our VIC Summit. So there's lots of different ways to approach mentoring.
HKN does have a mentoring program with graduate students and HKN members. So, we've really seen that grow with our graduate student population quite a bit. And we're really proud of that because I think I haven't met too many IEEE members that don't say they'd want to give back to a student.
Right.
They wouldn't help if they were asked. So I don't think I know that person. And I've met thousands of people in IEEE, so I don't think I've ever met that person. And the other thing was I going to ask you about, I know we have got future directions on, and we talked about that a little bit, but I think that's so exciting about how IEEE is so able to jump onto new technologies and then, see that happen. So how does something go from somebody's idea to being, wow, it's going to be a group in future directions?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I mean, somebody has to have the idea that we should get into this area. We're actually playing around with an AI tool to kind of take a look at things that come into IEEE, even, like papers, even before they're reviewed. So let's take a look at what trends we can pull out of that and anticipate where there's a coming need. But that's not up and running yet. So we're really relying on what different people have from their experience and their perspectives. So we have a future directions committee. They kind of look through different suggestions and kind of prioritize and see where we can really kind of build some engagement. One person coming in with one kind of quirky idea, it's kind of difficult to sustain. But if you've got half a dozen or a dozen folks that say, hey, this is a really important area, we really want to work on it, then it's something that we can easily support.
I think that's really a great flexibility. And then when you talked about the interaction between the societies, when there's these different groups that work together so that, it's not so all linear. We talk about silos in IEEE, but it's not always so siloed. And I think there's, because technology, all of our disciplines are interdisciplinary these days. Everything, your presentation was one of the best examples I've seen of that, how, you could touch base with some of these other things. And we've got a lot of other great technical societies that are here with us during this conference and at our conference that comes up in the fall, the Student Leadership Conference. And it's great to have the technical societies with us because, again, they have the best content. they have the experts, they have all those other kinds of, they have the publications, they have the conferences, and they have the scholarships, and they also have awards. I think
Yep.
that's something that we don't talk about a lot, because there are a lot of scholarships available in those societies. So if
That
you're not
that
joining
that's
and
that.
tapping into those dollars.
Yeah, I should have actually mentioned that. A
Mhm.
question from Agniva that just came in, asking about eligibility for societies. All of our societies have student membership opportunities, generally a discounted membership. So by all means, you can join any of the societies. Um, and you can also look at each society and see what their scholarship opportunities are. Um, some have undergraduate scholarships, and almost all have graduate scholarships. The challenge with undergraduate scholarships, we've got these societies and kind of technical specialties. You generally don't really know exactly what you're going to specialize in as an undergraduate, but when
Mhm.
you're a grad student, you do. But
Right.
there certainly are scholarships available um,
Mhm.
for undergrads as well.
Right. And then the awards. So I know Ed has awards program. If you're interested in applying for an Ed award, the deadline's coming up. It's first Monday in May. So those are coming up with a bunch of awards that we have. We just had our scholarship open, but you've got all kinds of award in technical societies too. The
We
technical
we
award.
we do, and lots of awards for young professionals too. Not as in terms of the young professional affinity group, but just for a young engineer that's made an impact. We have awards for that, and of course we've got lots of awards that might require a little bit more of a distinguished career. But
Mhm.
people that make a big impact early on certainly eligible for some awards.
Yeah, I know. I think these are the kinds of things that unless you're delving a little bit deeper into it, you don't realize what's available. But like we work often with the Power and Energy Society, and they've got a great scholarship program, for instance. And I tell all the Ed students who are all highly achieving students, I go, if you're
Right.
interested in power and energy, apply for this. I mean, it also comes with a mentor, and it comes with an industry connection. So there's some awesome stuff that's happening there, and
Right.
I just want to make sure that people know about this. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like
and
a treasure
yeah,
trove.
yeah,
It's a treasure trove of benefits.
what I found is that in terms of people that apply for our scholarships, it tends to be when their professors know about the scholarship and then drop a hint that you should apply. That's not the only route. I mean, you can look for yourself if there's a technical area that interests you. Look at that society,
Mhm.
and look. They'll post their scholarships,
Mm.
and just supply the information that you need. You don't
Mm.
you don't need your professor to tell you to do it. You can do it on your own initiative.
Well, one of the fun interactive things we did based on our conversations and working with a lot of my colleagues in technical activities, staff and other volunteers, is that we're going to have a Find Your Technical Home networking session following this one. So if
Right.
we're going to go into the lounges, and the different technical societies that are available are going to have tables. And at those tables, you can join a table and you'll be able to talk to some experts from those societies and ask some questions, see what different things they have, learn more about what you might be interested in, kind of connect them to your technical interests, find out about their membership or other kinds of programs that they offer. So I think it's really going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to do that again at the Student Leadership Conference in person too. But I'm really excited about this partnership that EdACAPNU has with technical activities. So Fred and I talked about, we were both at this Life Members Conference. We were talking about expanding that because we'd really like to see people take advantage of all the wonderfulness that there is to have when we're in that IEEE family and you're at a Kapanu and you join in and kind of there's so much to help you as a young person, as a student, and as a professional. So that's going to be exciting, Fred.
Yep, I agree. I'm looking forward
Mhm.
to it.
So
Yep.
yeah, hopefully we can expand this partnership and we can make sure that we're getting our message out and engaging more people and making sure that we're working to make sure all the great things that you can do within IEEE, because there's a lot of again, I always say a professional belongs to a professional society. If you're a professional, if this is what you've decided to do with your career and your life, you need to belong to a professional society, a professional organization, and that is of course EdACAPNU, but naturally IEEE.
Right. And, I mentioned our mission, IEEE's mission, which I think is a really awesome mission. And, just think about how you can contribute to that. We do a lot of things just to support, excuse me, our technical communities with conferences and journals, et cetera. But, we have resources that we can do, for the public good. So, STEM education, things like that, scholarships, sending around lecturers. But we're certainly willing to support new
Oh,
ideas. So if you've got
well,
an
our
idea,
humanitarian activities does a lot of great things. I mean, we had a whole issue of the bridge recently. Our move truck, which was with us, that does disaster relief. I mean, that's an amazing project is available, but there's a whole group of humanitarian activities. And then we do public policy. I know IEEE USA is going to be with us tomorrow. I don't know. Did you do the Hill visits last week?
I'm sorry.
Did you go out the Capitol Hill visits last week? Yeah, so IEEE is going to be here to talk about public policy and regulations and how that's so important. There's so much going on.
Right.
And our session is wrapping up here because we've got to get over to the next one. But Tech Ethics this afternoon, we've got a lot of other technical societies talking to us and a lot of other companies that are coming in to share their expertise and information with us. So great. Thanks so much, Fred. I knew this would be awesome because I know you and I've seen this talk before, and I really appreciate the partnership between technical activities and Etacapanu. So please, everyone, at 12:15, please join us over in the lounge, and you'll be able to meet with and talk to the different technical societies, ask a lot of your questions and get those answered, and engage and find the technical societies, find your technical home here at IEEE.
All right, great. Thanks a lot.
Take care.